Stan Gibilisco here. I'm going to talk a little more about electromagnetic pulse and the threat that it poses to our society in light of the coronal mass ejection, which made the news just a couple days ago. Actually, it took place in 2012. I stand corrected on that. I thought it was 2014. But it was really in 2012, which could produce a big electromagnetic pulse in our power lines and cause damage, the nature and extent of which it's difficult to say until it actually happens. But a lot of experts have warned us that it could cause a utility blackout, electrical blackout in particular, and an internet and communications infrastructure blackout that might last for months, some people say even years, although I think it would be more on the order of months, because in the event of that kind of massive catastrophe, the entire United States military would become involved. It would become a great effort, unlike anything we've ever done before, even more than what happened in World War II, if in fact such a thing took place. Community cooperation would become critical, and this is where I would like to note that communities can prepare for this independently and individually. If the utility power went out, it would be more than just not having electricity. You wouldn't be able to pump your gas. The groceries would all spoil in the store after a few days. A lot of hospitals would be in big trouble. You wouldn't be able to get transportation because of the problem getting gas, so food wouldn't be able to be delivered to replace the food that spoiled. It would be a massive disaster, and those who live in the cities would probably suffer the most. Those who live out in the wilderness would probably suffer the least, but everybody would suffer. Are there any communities out there that have taken up the idea that they ought to bring it upon themselves to prepare themselves to survive, say, a 12-month blackout of that sort? Are there? If there are, please let me know. I'm going to leave comments open, and I would consider moving there in a heartbeat. Even though I like it here in the Black Hills of South Dakota, I'd consider moving there. Now, I've thought about maybe going down to City Hall here in my hometown of Leeds, South Dakota, and talking to the city manager about it. And I'm sure he'd think it's a great idea. The problem, though, is that most communities simply don't have the get-up-and-go-to-itiveness to take on a challenge like this. They figure it's too unlikely, it's overblown, etc., etc., etc. But wouldn't it be cool if some community was actually ready and able to survive such an event without having to rely on the federal government or anybody else? Now, the idea of self-sufficiency, moving out into the wilderness all by yourself and trying to become completely independent of society, that's a pipe dream, that's a fantasy, that's a myth. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Now, it sounds great, self-sufficiency. It's a buzzword that sounds pretty neat. But I think community sufficiency is a buzzword that sounds even neater. Don't you? Stan Gibilisco signing off. Until next time, so long.